Hello, Columbia. I'm your host, Pete Osteen, and this is the newest edition of the Columbia
Pete,
Podcast.
Pete, we have a dead fish.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh. Who is it?
I don't know. I think it looks like cat. Is it Cranbone?
Cranbone.
Oh, gosh. Is it brutal?
Pretty brutal. Oh, man. Chanel. Jeez, I knew that was going to happen. Pretty mutilated.
Good.
Pretty good. Sheesh. You honestly didn't stand a chance.
Let's get this going before Fan comes back.
Just bring it out of here.
Does he look pretty bad?
Can you do?
Like I'm just sitting here and I'm just calling for you.
Alright, do this real quick.
Alright.
We do this. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Good morning, Columbia. I'm your host, Pete, and welcome back to the Columbia Podcast. The only podcast where you can hear from South Carolina students firsthand. And if you were joined with us last week, we met with, actually it was my twin brother, Jordan Osteen, who is a biology major here at the University of South Carolina. And he actually just applied to med school. And he's gotten his results back since then. And here he is. Jordan, glad to have you back.
Great to be here with you, Pete. It's always an honor.
So, Jordan, without further ado, how are the results? Did you end up getting into MUSC?
I did. I was very fortunate. Got in the early decision, so I will be joining them next August.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Let me ask you this much. How much has your academic life changed in the past couple of weeks? Because I'm sure it was very hustle and bustle before, and now it's got to be quite different.
Yeah, you know what? It sure is different. It's sort of a mindset thing. I guess I don't feel as much pressure. In a sense, I've lost some motivation, which isn't good, but I can definitely say that I have, and I'm just not as pressured to pump out A's like I used to. And, you know, as long as I'm more inclined just to sort of learn for my own good. If I don't get an A or don't do well in a class, it's okay with me now because there's not really a point. So I'm graduating in December, as long as I think everything should go well. So
You're graduating in December. Do you have any plans? Do you know what you're going to do that semester off before med school?
you know, I really don't have any plans, but I just feel like I should do something that out of the ordinary that I won't be able to do for the rest of my life. I could always work in a healthcare environment, and I would love to do that, I'm sure, but this could be the last time for a very long, long time that I could pick up an odd job or do something that I really enjoy that's completely unrelated to medicine. So I still have some time to decide and figure out what to do, but hopefully I can, do something a little bit unorthodox.
That could certainly be a good time to put a little padding in your bank account before med school. And it'd also be a great time to travel. And if I'm not mistaken, you've got some relatives that live in Croatia. Would that be a possibility? Maybe going over there and visit your grandma?
You know, I sure do. And it is a possibility. It's been a while since I've seen her in person, and she is getting a little bit up there in age. And, you can never know when life hits you. So I guess death, and it'd be very smart for me to do that. I think I'd love to see Croatia in the winter months and just spend some quality time with my grandmother and some other family and relatives over there.
That's wonderful. If I'm not mistaken, you're actually taking a guitar class now. How is that going? And what made you want to do that?
Yeah, I am taking a guitar class, and you know what? I guess the reason I really wanted to take it is I just wanted to challenge myself in a new way, and that's definitely a way to do it. I honestly haven't played any sort of music since middle school, and that's when my mom sort of forced me to play in the middle school band. Looking back on it, I wish I kept it up, but being the rebellious middle schooler I was, I found every way to get out of it, and I played French horn, and I kind of regret not sticking with an instrument. So this summer I was just sort of felt the desire to play guitar, and it's not only serves as a challenge, but it's also a great stress reliever from schoolwork, and it's just a great hobby to keep you occupied in a very healthy way, and it's also a whole lot of fun too.
So Jordan, I know what most of our listeners out there are thinking. What do you think are the best ways to prepare yourself in undergrad to apply for med school and to get accepted? Because I know it's a very low acceptance rate and it's a very hard school to get into. What advice would you give any undergrad student?
Wow, that's a loaded question. You know, people will say different things, but what I would recommend most highly is to find a couple of mentors that can really lead you in the right direction, because you can't do this by yourself. And if you have mentors who have seen people go through the process and they just have so much more knowledge and wisdom than you do, and they can help you out immensely. And I was fortunate enough to have a couple of those myself, and each one of them had their unique contribution that I don't think I'd be able to be accepted without them. And so I'm very grateful to all of them. And on top of that, I also think you just have to just stay occupied. You want to be busy, whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be healthcare related necessarily. As long as you're busy and you're doing something that you love and you know that you have a passion to want to go into the healthcare field, then I don't think it's hard not to get in. As long as on top of that, you have to do well on a standardized test, and as I said earlier, you have to get a lot of A's. But as long as you stay busy, keep the grades above average, and just tuck away a couple of months to study for the MCAT, you'll be fine.
And one thing I've heard you talk about, which I really do agree with, is, well, I know how competitive and how stressful it can be, and how sometimes students take it too seriously, and how they need to just take it easy and really enjoy what they're studying. Would you agree on that, or would you want to elaborate any more on that?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And sometimes it can be a turnoff when people are too competitive. It just sort of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And I know it is a naturally competitive environment, but you just have to really keep your eye on the prize, not worry about anyone else. Just worry about yourself. Keep yourself busy. Don't worry about what other people are doing, because you're not going to be able to do everything. Just do what's in your reach, stick to it, and do it the best of your ability, and you'll succeed.
And I know you did early decision at MUSC, which is a little bit different. I guess that's kind of a neat option they offer. What would you say are the biggest factors that the interviewers look for in an interview? Is it grades? Is it well-balanced, well-roundedness? Do they look for real-life experience? What would you say is what these interviewers look for the most in future medical school students?
Well, I guess you need the grades in the MCAT to really get in. So the interviewers aren't necessarily looking at that. I think they're mainly looking at, why do you want to go into the future that you're going into, and do you really have some meaningful experiences that back it up? Because if you don't, and you're a really smart kid, you're going into medical school for the wrong reasons. I mean, these schools are putting a whole lot of an investment into you, and they don't want to see you drop out first or second year. That's a spot that someone else could have had that didn't accept. So they want to make sure that you really know what you're getting into and that you're passionate for it. And that you're a personable person, that you can keep a conversation going. And I think those are some of the main things they're looking for.
I'll say one thing I had no idea the MCAT was so big of a monster. I can just say from personal experience, since Jordan being my twin brother, we lived together, and I've seen him studying for this thing, and wow, you spent countless hours, days, weeks, and months studying for this thing. And I don't think people really understand how much material is on that thing. What advice would you have for studying for the MCAT?
Yeah, you're not kidding. It really is a monster. And I know I've spent probably about a month kind of twiddling my thumbs and not really getting to it. So the best advice I could say is just to really find a plan, find a study schedule, lay it out for the months you want to go, and just do your best to stick to it. Obviously, you're going to have some days that are better than others. You're going to have good days, bad days, and you just have to be able to overlook those and just do your best to stick to it. And just as long as you have that passion and that drive, and you're just constantly reminding yourself of your end goal, then I think you'll be fine. And it does take a lot of time, and it's a major commitment, but I did it, and if I can do it, I think anyone can.
Now, since you're a future MUSC student, and I'm sure a lot of pre-med students are probably listening to this podcast, you're probably going to have to do some recruiting here. And what really appealed to you about MUSC, and why did you want to go there where you could have gone to so many other great med schools? I know there's 3 in South Carolina alone. What really appealed to you about the Medical University of South Carolina down in Charleston?
Yeah, well, first off, I've always known that I want to live in South Carolina afterwards, and I want to attend school here. I've grown up in South Carolina my entire life. My whole family lives here, and it's just never crossed my mind to want to live anywhere else. And as for MUSC, I just believe it's honestly the most well-established school. And in my opinion, I think it's the best school in the state too. It's just been around for so long. And also one thing that it has that other schools don't is it's not just a med school. You've got PA, PT, and nursing, dental, and I think that really stimulates what the real healthcare environment is like, and helps you learn to work as a team. And those are some great opportunities. There's also it just has some very good professors and doctors for clinical experiences, and it's known for its research too. And I think a balance between research and clinical experience is very good for physicians. I like to see that out of that school, and I just think it offers more than other local schools do.
Last question. I know this is kind of early on. You're not even in med school yet, but do you have any idea where you want to focus your studies whenever you get to MUSC?
That is a good question. And I feel like I've always been drawn to family medicine or internal medicine. I've always just sort of wanted to be a small town doc to where I can get to develop a relationship with everyone who comes to me, develop it over time, and just really to be a strong figure in the community and be able to give good advice to these people to actually help affect their lives in a positive way. So that's where I see myself. And I shadowed some internists, and I really liked it. In addition, there's also a pretty broad field. So if I do change my mind, I can always go in another direction. But right now I'm very interested in internal medicine and family medicine.
Well, Jordan, unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. And I really appreciate you coming out. That was a great interview. And let me say this much to all the listeners out there, especially those that want to go pre-med. That man is a worker. He works hard. And that's just not something you can kind of halfway put some effort into. You've really got to be dedicated. You've really got to be committed. And Jordan, I think he's the perfect candidate. And I think MUSC is definitely getting a good one. So again, Jordan, congratulations on getting it in. I'm so very glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, well, thanks very much, and best of luck with the future podcast.
Thank you, Jordan.